My name's Gail Henry and I'm one of the senior dementia consultants at the DSDC in Stirling. I was involved in the development of the new Environments for Ageing and Dementia Design Assessment tool, and I'm going to present or introduce Tier 1 of this EADDAT tool. Tier 1 specifically contains the 6 fundamentals, which are each outlined in examples given in the following slides. It will also include the Design Fundamentals checklist and information on how to self-certify and obtain appropriate certification, and decals. We'll look at a case study of the Almondvale library and some of the best practice examples contained within the materials, including kitchen and bathroom. So Tier 1 we refer to as being dementia aware. This is an entry level suitable for anyone from the person with dementia, carers, lay people, health professionals, or cafe and small business owners looking to make small changes to help make life a bit easier for people with dementia and or age-related frailty, as well as their carers. It talks about making small changes which matter. So Tier 1 introduces the fundamentals of age and dementia-aware design or modification. It concludes with the short checklist to consider simple changes in relation to the fundamentals and can be used in any environment type. And as discussed, it's suitable for all lay people. The changes illustrated in Tier 1 are usually small and inexpensive around the home or environment that can make a difference to the person with dementia and their carer. It's designed to make people who would like their environment to be more accessible or age and dementia aware that do not have the resources or the capacity to do extensive work. So the fundamentals of design for ageing and dementia could be thought of as the aims or goals of design interventions. That's to say what you're trying to promote or achieve for the person living with age-related frailty, with or without dementia. These inform the next level of design principles, Tier 2, which are the further breakdown of what is required to achieve these in conjunction with an appropriate care model and care planning. So these are almost macro or simplistic interventions, while each of the other tiers continue to break down to the micro and more technical areas of design. So as previously stated, the fundamentals inform the principles and are what following the design principles intend to achieve for those who are ageing with or without dementia. The design principles identified by Mary Marshall, who joined Stirling University in 1989, were established and began to take off internationally from about 1993 onwards. These informed the Dementia Design Audit Tool, the EADDAT. However, it was recognised that the design principles that appeared in the EADDAT were difficult to apply at the domestic or lay level without redesigning the environment or being involved to inform architects and designers, etc. But many of these principles can be adapted to the domestic or non-specialist environment with low costs, which is important for people living in the community and trying to maintain independence. The wording of the principles have been pared back to allow accessibility for a wider audience with a variety of skills and knowledge. The fundamentals, and therefore the principles, reflect the Kitwood model of positive personhood, which was central to the ethos of the DSDC, having a holistic approach where focusing on abilities rather than disabilities and providing meaningful interventions through design for the individual promotes quality of life. We'll look at each of the 6 fundamentals in the coming slides. You will notice that many of the fundamentals overlap as it's difficult to dissect, and one change can support on many different levels or compensate for several limitations. We also signpost within the document to further information where appropriate, for example, helpful hint literature for carers or further design information. So the 6 fundamentals. Fundamental 1 looks at promoting ability. Now, the byline, as you'll notice, is the previous wording which was used, and it's been adapted slightly to make it more applicable to less specialist environments and more appropriate to the wider community. The change in wording was also intended to focus on positives or abilities rather than negatives. That becomes more apparent in some rather than others. So fundamental 1 is promotability, and the byline or the previous wording was compensate for disability. So the aim of this fundamental of promoting ability through design looks at simple measures such as lowering signs in public places or adding signs around the home or photographs. Small changes in the home based on the individual's lifestyle and their own normal are essential. Some changes that others may think of as better is not always. If they're unfamiliar to the individual, there may be problems in using them or understanding how they help. For example, a shower which is unfamiliar to the person may cause distress, or they may require additional assistance if it's difficult for them to operate, or they don't like a shower. So essentially, an inappropriate intervention can have the opposite effect than what was intended. Additionally, promoting access to outdoor spaces to allow the continuing participation in meaningful activity and enjoyed pastimes promotes health and well-being and quality of life. It also has health benefits such as promoting sleep and possibly reducing distressed behaviour. Maintaining independence and personal identity is important for us all, no matter, and affects how we perceive ourselves, and that's no different to someone who's older or someone who has dementia. It's important to realise that the experience of living with dementia is very individual. Independence is when the individual can do as much for themselves as possible, and this can be a simple daily chore or performing personal hygiene. Design can make this easier, which may initially seem difficult to achieve in the home, but basic examples include removing cupboards, clearing clutter, providing contrast with soft furnishings, access to outside for activities, easy opening doors, and having a view outside can also help. These changes also allow for some compensation of sensory impairments and frailty. Fundamental 3, enabling care for carers, or as it was previously known, demonstrating care for staff, had to be altered slightly in the wording to make it help it apply to the domestic environment as well as for other non-caring environments such as libraries or cafes, for example. Many of the design alterations to the home should also be mindful that the main carer may also be older and have age-related frailty as well, so it's important to take that into consideration. They may also have mobility aids and potentially may have dementia. So simple rearrangement of furniture can help. Having the opportunity to leave the home easily, either into immediate outdoor space or further afield to a shop or cafe, can help the carer and the individual with dementia. Facilitating the individual's independence and activity level can provide some respite and reduce burden for carers, either formal or informal carers. By assisting in the reduction of burden, it may reduce the potential for burnout and influence decisions to admit people into long-term care. Fundamental 4 is about being familiar, understanding your environment. When surroundings are familiar to someone, especially if they have dementia, then this can reduce stress. And familiarity is not just what someone sees, but also what they can touch and smell. The olfactory sense can be very powerful and may help with memory and feelings. Unfamiliar environments can also increase the risk of delirium and be a trigger to distressed behaviour. Visual cues can be utilised to make areas familiar, and that can be the use of signage, but signage has to be understandable and placed appropriately, as well as means of orientation to the environment such as large clocks can be used. Other triggers may be hanging jackets near to the door to remind someone to put them on if they like to go outside. Utilising soft furnishings, photographs and familiar toiletries can be used to make unfamiliar environments more familiar. For example, when someone has to go into a hospital ward or if they're going on holiday. Fundamental 5 in maintaining interactions with others aims to reduce social isolation. Having a home which is easy to get around in and understand helps people with dementia interact with others because it allows them to have the confidence to do this. When someone with dementia loses confidence, they're less likely to interact with others. They can become embarrassed and self-conscious, so it's important to maintain confidence and facilitate independence. This will allow them to have people over or to go out to the local shops or cafes if this is what they enjoy doing. Promoting access to outdoor areas also means that they have the ability to meet friends and enjoy outdoor activities. This improves their mental well-being, and if cafes, libraries, etc. can make small changes, such as visual cues and improved accessibility, then that will help reduce the potential for isolation, possible depression and worsening of dementia symptoms. Some measures that can easily and relatively inexpensively be put in place include rails, visual cues, ramps, and doors that are easy to open. So Fundamental 6, accommodating preferences. This looks at controlling and balancing stimuli, but facilitating choice. Everyone has their own preference when it comes to music, films, hobbies, and this contributes to who they are as a person. Facilitating these can help people maintain their hobbies or participate in activities for as long as possible. Sometimes someone with dementia who is frail may require more support to achieve this, but in doing so there can be a positive impact on their quality of life and reduce possible distressed behaviour. Methods of accomplishing this can include providing appropriate lighting for activities or to promote sleep, reducing noise to alleviate stress. People with dementia live in a permanently elevated level of stress just trying to understand the day-to-day world, and stress may lead to distressed behaviour very easily. Therefore, controlling or reducing stressful stimuli and promoting the ability for someone to carry out tasks or activities they enjoy reduce the potential for this. Distressed behaviour can be upsetting for everyone and sometimes can lead to admission to hospital or long-term care if it's unable to be managed at home. Some of the suggestions provided in the material include easy-to-operate TV remote control and possibly assistive technology. Lighting should be easy to operate and within reach, and if being able to get outside is a preference, then this should also be accommodated. So moving on to the fundamentals checklist. This checklist is a checklist and it's a simplified version, which is quite short, and it's designed to assess and inform how age and dementia where the environment is. It's based on the 6 fundamentals and it's not intended as a guide to inform total refurbishments of premises or designing a premise. That comes with other tiers, but it helps to acknowledge the efforts made, and it will probably be utilised more by small businesses like cafes or independent shops rather than individuals in their own home, but they might like to use the checklist as reassurance rather than to obtain a self-certification. So the checklist is essentially tick boxes, and there is a tick box section with 2 to 3 domains under each fundamental. So to gain self-certification and be awarded a decal to display, then the property or environment needs to meet all 3 of the criteria of the fundamentals and 3 of the domains within 3 of the fundamentals. There may well be overlap, as one well-considered change may address several domains. The process is still being tweaked to ensure compatibility with the website redesign and functionality. So as we mentioned, the self-assessment and certification, this is where the users can receive recognition of their project, and in return the users will receive a window decal and a certificate of self-certification or acknowledgement within the DSDC register of self-certified environments for ageing and dementia design. These are examples on the slide. They are not final draft and the wording and designs are still to be finalised, but there will be differences between the levels and the tiers, which will be explained in the relevant tiers. Where the environment has not undergone the audit process, this will also be reflected in the certificate wording. So the case study that we've addressed in the materials is Almondvale Library, which was part of the Kirklees project that the DSDC were involved in, and it's the first library to implement some of the fundamentals to promote the use of the facility for all. This is a screenshot of the page, and you can see there's a narrative around the project included in the publication. So it provides an intergenerational space and have utilised contrast and signage to make the facility more age and dementia aware. One of the best practice examples is kitchens that we use, and they're basic examples, and it's to illustrate clearing clutter, using glazed doors for visual prompts, using contrasting colours, trying to reduce glare from appliances, and the use of lighting. This is just one example from the materials. The other example that we use is the bathroom. So as you can see, we have a white bathroom on one side, and we've utilised simple cost-effective changes like using different coloured towels and face cloths, bath mats and toilet seat to create contrast. We've also included a roller blind over the mirror, as mirrors can sometimes be distressing for people with dementia. Within the document, there is also an example of activities area in the publication, which demonstrate improved and supported accessibility to allow for mobility and joint issues, as well as mindful placement of lighting, as well as being easy to operate. Thank you.